What's up, everyone? Good to see you all. I know that many of you, if not all of you, are quarantined in your place like I am. And this is actually a great time to work on music since you can't go anywhere. You know, everybody thinks about this. Oh man, if I only had time to do this, if I only had time to work on my ear, if I only had time to practice spread triads or work on writing or compositions, whatever it might be. This is your time. This is the time that everybody's been looking for this, to work on music and get better. This is all going to pass eventually. It's totally going to pass. I'm positive of it. And what you do now is really important. Okay, this is your chance to take advantage of things that you never have time for. Okay, so I want to talk about basic skills that every musician needs. I talk about this all the time, but we're going to talk about why these things are important, and I'm going to demonstrate them. We're going to talk about the ear and how it relates to music theory first. This is the main thing. I'm going to do a series of these things where I'm going to talk about one of them. I'll talk about rhythm and feel. I'm going to talk about, we're going to talk about chord progressions now. We're going to talk about intervals, triads, seventh chords, things like that. So I have a whole series of things that we're going to do, and I'm going to show you how to practice. Before I start, I have a discount code like I always do for all my live streams. The discount code is right here. RB321 is today's date, unless you're in Australia. That's tomorrow's date. This is for the PDF, YouTube, and Instagram bundle. YouTube, Instagram bundle, along with the Beato book, 50% off. RB321. And 50% off the Beato ear training course. It's in the description below. So, all right. Why is ear training important? Okay, well, it's important for a lot of things. Let's say you have an idea and you don't have an instrument with you and you want to write it down. Well, what do? How do you remember it? If you don't have anything to record with and you don't have an instrument, well, if you know your intervals, then you can write it down. You can at least write down the note names. You don't even have to know where they are on the staff. You can just write down the note names. You can write down the intervals. There are ways that you can record this, notate it to remember. Okay, now, why are intervals important? Well, intervals are the building blocks of everything. They're the building blocks of chords. They're the building blocks of scales, melodies, whatever. You need to know intervals for improvising. If you hear a melody and you want to play it on your instrument, you need to know intervals. For example, let's say that I'm thinking of, I like to think of movie themes because movie themes are really something that are easy to remember, I think. If I think of, everybody knows that. John Williams, right? That's the Superman theme from the original 1978 Superman with Christopher Reeve that John Williams wrote. John Williams writes incredibly memorable melodies, and they have a lot of interval jumps in them. Okay, this in particular, it starts on the note G, and now what is that note it goes down to? Well, you have to know that interval is a perfect fifth interval, okay? Right there. Then it goes da. When you think of da, da, perfect fourth, and then ba, then down a fifth, da, on a perfect fifth. Now, if you had that starting note, I knew that starting note was G, right? But I don't have perfect pitch, but I can remember that note because I can really remember that theme. It sticks in my head. That's what's so great about John Williams' themes is that I can hear it. Ba, 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 ba. Then it starts again. Ba, 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 ba. What is that? Da, 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 ba. Now you have to know what that interval is if you're going to play it. So when you go, then ba, da, da, my body lies over the ocean. If you want to think that in that terms, that's a major sixth interval. So G to E is a major sixth. Da, 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 and it goes E to D. Okay, now I'm not showing you my hands here. I have the keyboard right here, right? But ear training is all about not needing the keyboard. You have to think of what these intervals are. So if you know that this da-da is a perfect fifth, and you know da is a perfect fourth, and da is a major sixth, and da 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 is a major second down, okay, then you can actually play that melody. You can write it, you can play it, as long as you have the starting note and you can hear it. This is what it means to know about intervals. Now, there are, let's think of another John Williams theme. Let's say Indiana Jones. It's also in the key of C. Da, 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 da. Okay, it starts on the note E. Okay, now, how did I know that it was the note E? Well, I'm in the key of C, and I know that they're both in the key of C, so I used intervals. When I went da, 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 and I just used my last interval that I heard from here. I went from the D, and then da. I went down to the E in my head, okay? So I went from D, which is a minor seventh descending interval, which are the most difficult ones to do. Are the minor sevenths or descending intervals are really difficult. So they take more practice. In my ear training course, this is what it goes through. It begins with intervals. I have a video where I explain things, but then it has a computer program. So my the Beato ear training course is that. It has over 100 modules in the first 10. It's actually going to be 20 sections, but the first 10 are out now, and they're all the things that you need to practice: intervals, triads, all things we're going to talk about today. But it goes through and gives you examples in all different keys, all randomized, and helps you practice these things. Okay, so Indiana Jones starts on the note E. So I think of these things as I think of target notes. Da, 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 da. So that I think, okay, this is scalar starting on E, so I think. So the third of the key of C, so E half step, then up a whole step. I know that in my head that's half step, whole step, and then da da is a perfect fourth interval. Da, this is where it gets tricky. It jumps down a seventh, okay? A minor seventh interval from C down to D. John Williams is the master of these interval jumps, really wide interval jumps. Okay, then that walks back up scale-wise, D, E, F. So, now, da. So we're on F, da, right, da. Then it goes up to G, da, 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 right up the scale. So we're using... These are all the notes of C major. So if you know your intervals within C, and you know it starts on the, right, that starts on the third of, it's all over a C. There's just a C in the bass, in the tubas and things like that. This is all a pedal tone. And I used it in my Ionian video that I put out last week, because it's a great thing that shows you how to use the major scale, and it teaches you the intervals within the major scale, right? Then da, 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 da. So it's going to go up a tritone up to F. So from B to F, da, 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 right? F, A. And then back up the scale. But this interval here is a minor six down, okay? So that's a much more complex melody than the Superman theme, right? It's only using the notes of C major. So it's actually easy. Where things get difficult is when you get into really complex or chromatic movie themes, like The Godfather. For those of you that have never seen The Godfather, it came out in 1972. It's one of the greatest movies ever. It never gets old. It doesn't matter if most of the people are not alive that made the movie. So it starts on the note A. And it's using a D minor triad, okay? Da, 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 da. So right there, da, da, perfect fourth, da, da, minor third, da is a minor second down. Then whole step, minor third, whole step down. And then it goes da, da, to B flat. It goes down major third, up a whole step, down a minor third, okay? That's tricky. Okay, this is where it gets even more complex. So this is what's so great about this, because there's all these chromatic notes in the Godfather theme, right? That is a great melody. And then it goes up a diminished seventh chord, then it goes from, this is the note D, and then it goes down. It goes down an octave. How many times do you have octave jumps in melodies? Here, in and over the rainbow. Then you go D, F, C. So that's going... this is actually, I think of this almost as like a B flat major add 9 in inversion. Da, 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 down a minor 6, and then to the tonic there, right? So that's all, it's in D minor, but you have, so you've got these notes in the scale. So it's a harmonic minor melody along with that passing tone in there with that A flat to G. Okay, so that is a much, much more difficult melody. If you can master the intervals in just the Godfather theme, you're cooking. I mean, that's a hard one to do. Okay, so you should be able to play a melody by ear. I've never played that before on the piano. I played it on the mandolin for my mom back in the day. But I've never played that on the piano before right now. How did I do it? Because ba ba, I know what these intervals, da da, minor third, down a half step. You know, I know where those notes are. This is where ear training and intervals, this is why this is important. So that you can play anything you hear in your ear when you're soloing here, soloing on a saxophone, whatever it is. If you can hear the note you're going to and you say, okay, that's up a minor seventh, boom, you hit it. And it just becomes instantaneous after you practice it a lot, okay? Okay, so that's intervals. Now, intervals, we usually move on to chords. Triads are the next thing you need to be able to hear by ear. Now, the first triads you should be able to hear are major, minor, diminished, and augmented. Those are the basic, the 4 building block triads that you need to know, okay? So, that is a major triad. So you've got major third interval, minor third interval, and then between the 2 outer notes is a perfect fifth. So we're going to talk about this. I'll show you here. Remember, discount code for today, this is for the Beato book bundle. So this is where all the theory is in here in my book. It starts with intervals, and it shows you how to build chords. So you need the theory component, and then if you want to get into it deeper, check out my ear training course. Then you start to hear these things by ear. Okay, so let's talk about triads and how they're built and how you hear them. Okay, so a major triad is has 3 notes. So you got a major third on the bottom, minor third on the top. Lowercase m means minor. So you'd have if you're in C major, C, E, G. Okay? So this is a major third interval, C to E, and a minor third interval, E to G. And between the 2 outer voices is a perfect fifth. Okay? So C to E, major third, E to G is a minor third, and outer voices C to G is a perfect fifth. Okay? So that's the construction of a major triad. Okay, I'll put it like this so it's easier to see. This is major. A minor triad is just the opposite. It has a minor third on the bottom and a major third on the top. Okay, so it'd be in the key of C, it'd be C, E flat, G. Okay, so here's your minor third. This is your major third interval. And then between the outer voices, once again, is a perfect fifth. So the only note that changes is the middle note. So C to E, minor third. E to G is a major, C to E flat is a minor third. E flat to G is a major third. And between the outer voices is a perfect fifth. Let me stand over here. Okay, so that is a C minor chord. That's how that's constructed. Then you have a diminished triad. I'll go to diminished next. Diminished triad is 2 minor thirds stacked. So minor third in the bottom, minor third in the top, C, hate this, C, E flat, G flat. Okay? Between the outer things is a diminished fifth. Between the outer voices. So you got C, E flat, G flat. So that is a C diminished chord. So you've got minor third, diminished fifth. That is a diminished triad. And then we have the augmented triad, which is 2 major thirds stacked on one another. C, E, G sharp. And between the outer voices here is an augmented fifth. Okay? So that would be C, E, E, G sharp. Between the outer voices, C, G sharp. That is an augmented fifth. Now you could say, well, that sounds like a minor 6. To the ear, you can't tell the difference between a diminished or an augmented fifth and a minor 6. They are the same to the ear. Okay? So when you hear these things, you have to be able to hear it as a diminished triad. This is the tricky thing because you can't hear the theory like this. You can hear the components that make these up, but you have to be able to say major, minor, diminished, augmented. It doesn't matter what key you're in. Augmented, diminished, minor, major. You have to be able to recognize these in any inversion. If I play like that, that's a B flat major chord, but that's a chord, that's a major triad in inversion, meaning with a fifth in the bass. Okay, so anytime you hear these triads, you have to be able to recognize major, minor, diminished, and augmented. Those are basics. Okay, then you start getting into 7th chords, and it gets a little bit more complicated when we add 7ths onto these. Okay, so the 7th chords that you should be able to recognize are the major 7, minor 7, the dominant 7, the minor 7 flat 5 or half diminished, the diminished 7, the augmented 7th, and the augmented major 7th, and the minor major 7. These are pretty much, now when you get into my ear training course, we go over many more than that. But these are all what I call the basic families that you need to know. You need to know what they sound like by ear. Here are the formulas. 1, 3, 5, 7, 1, flat 3, 5, flat 7, 1, 3, 5, flat 7, 1, 3, flat 3, flat 5, flat 7, 1, flat 3, flat 5, double flat 7, 1, 3, sharp 5, flat 7, 1, 3, sharp 5, major 7, 1, flat 3, 5, major 7. Okay? Those are the formulas. Now, I have those memorized because I've known these things for the last 40 years. But when you hearing them by ear is really tricky. How do I do this here? I do like this. I'll play the thing here. Now, when you add sevenths, this is a C major 7th chord, 1, 3, 5, 7, or a major triad with a major 7th between the lowest note and the highest note. That's a C major 7 chord. But that's just a major 7th chord. Your ear hears that. If I lower the 7th and make it a flat 7, I make it a dominant 7th, and it becomes that. So that's a C7. If I lower the 3rd, it becomes C minor 7. If I lower the 5th, it becomes C minor 7 flat 5. If I lower the 7th to a double flatted 7th, it becomes a C diminished chord. If I have the C major 7 again, and I raise the 5th, it becomes a C augmented major 7. That means it's an augmented chord with a major 7th interval between the lowest and the highest note. Augmented major 7, and you also have a augmented 7th, which is like an augmented dominant 7th. 1, 3, sharp 5, flat 7. Okay? And then you also have the minor major 7, minor chord with a major 7. You hear that in a lot of horror movies, a lot of suspense movies. That's a film noir kind of sound, that minor, major 7, or you hear James Bond, like the last chord. Is it in that register or is it in this register? I got to think about this. No, I think it's on the guitar, yeah. Yeah, that's the register it's in. I was thinking on the guitar where you play it, but it'd be like this. That's that minor major 9. It's a minor major 7th with a 9th on there. That's that last chord in the James Bond movies before they go into the movie. So these are all the 7th chords. These are all the basic 7th chords that you need to be able to recognize by ear. Okay, so these are extended 7th, or these are basic 7th chords. The next thing we have is extended note chords, okay? This is the next stuff to master by ear. Once again, why do you need to know this stuff? You need to know it so that when you hear it, you know what it is, okay? Extended note chords. You guys know what they are, you just might not know the what I'm calling them. This would be like D add 9. No, we'll do C add 9 because it's a common guitar chord. C add 9. What does that mean, C add 9? Okay, that means a C major chord, and you add the 9th, which is really the 2nd. So, or could be that with the 9th. That's a C add 9 chord. So it's C major. It's really C major add 9. C, E, G, and D is the add 9. Okay? When you hear these add 9 chords, that's what that means. You can also have a minor add 9. You can have C minor, or I'll put lowercase m, C minor add 9. C minor add 9 would be C, D, that's the add 9, E flat, right? Because we have the C minor triad and G. Here's the C minor triad, C minor, and that's the add 9. Those are the notes, and that would sound like this. That's a C minor add 9 sound right there. C major add 9, C minor add 9. Now, when you start hearing just simple major and minor add 9s, you can go, I can put that in the bass. I put A flat in the bass, and it gives me a cool voicing. B flat, G in the bass. It starts sounding kind of like Radiohead or something, right? That major triad, major add 9, I could do the same. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful sound. So when you can recognize those things like that by ear, when you hear it, you know exactly, oh, I know what that is. I know what that is. So when I'm listening to something, when I'm listening to a tune, I'm always thinking, oh, I know what this chord progression is. Oh, I know what that chord is. I know what that chord is. You don't need perfect pitch. You just need to be able to recognize the sound of these things instantly. And all that takes is practice. And what do we have time for over this next couple months or so? You have time to practice. Yeah, you got to do your work, via computer. Or whatever, this is the time to take advantage of the time. Discount code, in case I forgot, RB321, 50% off my Beato book and YouTube Instagram transcription bundle. It's 600 plus pages, it's like 620 pages. And 30% off the ear training, my Beato ear training. You can find that on my website, rickbeato.com. You can find the links to those. Okay, so these are extended chords. So there's other extended chords too. That can be extended seventh chords. There's many more of these, but I'm just going to talk about some other ones. If you take like a C9 chord, C9, this is not C add 9, it's C9. What does that mean? That means it's a C7 chord with a 9. C, E, G, B flat, that's C7. And then D is the 9. Why is it a 9? Because it's 9 scale notes away from the root. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's a ninth interval, so that's a C9 chord. That's not a good voicing of it, but that's what it is theoretically, right? So these are called extended chords here. These are all part of what I call extended chords. These are added note chords. I should say added note. God, I can't write. I just wrote in lowercase letters. I never do that. It's really weird. Added note chords. Added note and extended chords. These would be added note chords. These are extended chords, extended beyond the octave. If you had a G13 flat 9, that would be a more complex chord. Well, that tells you it's a G7 chord with a 13 and with a flat 9. G7, G, B, D, F. That's G7. Let me do it this way. That's hard to read down here. G13 flat 9. G, B, D, F. That's G7. That's the basic lower part of the chord. 13 flat 9. The flat 9 would be A flat. That's the flat 9. And the 13 is E. That's the 13. Those are the notes in that chord. That's a G13 flat 9 chord. That would sound like this. I would reorder it and play it like this. That has a really particular sound. Thank you, Baz. Really appreciate that. Wow, that's so cool. So that is a G13 flat 9 chord. I have G, F, B, E, which is the 13th, and the flat 9. I didn't add the 5th. You don't need the 5th in the voicing. That would be with all the notes in the chord. That's a G13 flat 9 chord, but spread out over the flat 9 is way up here. Okay, this would be a ninth. That's a ninth up the octave. Okay, so anyway, so these are what extended chords are. Being able to recognize these. I would say that what you need to do. Thank you, Kilgore Trout. Appreciate that. Okay. Next, so added note chords. And the last thing that we're going to talk about, I'm not going to teach you everything right now because it's all in my book and my ear training course. But for your information, for those of you thinking I'm taking the videos down, the live streams each week, I'm not. They're in the archive live stream playlist that's on my channel. You just go and they're all there. Okay? So they're just go in that. And I've got all my live streams are archived right there. So in case you want to know, you say, oh, where's last week's playlist or last week's live stream? I'm trying to do them on Saturdays now, just that people have more time on Saturdays, and I just think it's a better time to do it. Okay, so I want to talk about chord progressions really fast. Well, we don't have time to talk about chord progressions, really. I want to get in 30 minutes, and we're right at 30 minutes right now. So that would be the next thing that we would start to work on, our chord progressions and hearing them. And I talked about them the last couple weeks. Last week I talked about chord progressions. I talked about diatonic chord progressions. So that's the next thing that you would need to be able to hear. It's one thing, so you have to know the theory of it, because you have to know what chords are in C major. C major, D minor, E minor, F major, G major, A minor, B diminished, back to C minor, or C major. Those are all the diatonic chords of C major. You have to know those in order to be able to recognize that this is a 4, 5, 1, okay? So this is why theory is important. Theory and ear training are not, there is no difference between them. You can't work on your ear if you don't know what you're hearing, if you don't know what it's called. That's why they are totally interlinked. Music theory and ear training are both the same thing. If you want to be able to figure out guitar solos, trumpet solos, keyboard solos, sax solos, whatever, and write them down without an instrument, or you want to be able to get on a gig and play and somebody calls a tune, you're like, yeah, I know that goes. And you can just play it, right? Because you know what the intervals are. Okay, you guys are amazing. Don't forget, this is the time to practice. This is the one time you may have in your life, for those of you that are adults like me, because this could be over really quickly. It could. We don't know. So take advantage of this time and don't get depressed. Think of it as a once in a lifetime thing. Rico USA, thank you so much. Man, here's a vote for chord progressions. I talked about chord progressions last week. Beato book bundle with the YouTube, Instagram transcription, 600 plus pages, 50% off on the website. My ear training course, 30% off. You guys are amazing. Enjoy the rest of your day. Here it's 80 degrees out. It's actually very hot here. I think it's over 80 degrees. It was 84 here in Atlanta yesterday. It was absolutely beautiful day. I was sitting outside. I've already played basketball with Dylan and hung out, played with the girls outside today. So this has been great. T Price, thank you. Alan, thank you so much. You guys are amazing. Everybody with Super Chat, thank you so much. Take care. Be safe. Stay in.